Welcome to the Subtropical Gardening Podcast. Every single week, we will be talking about a feature plant for the local climates of the tropics, the subtropics, and the warm climate areas. I'll also give a garden tip, which hopefully will stimulate success and encourage you to do a little bit more gardening outside or inside if you have indoor plants. If you do like the series of Subtropical Gardening podcast, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We really appreciate your support in growing this YouTube station, or I should say YouTube channel. The podcast will be produced every single week, sometimes released on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending upon the time frame. This week we're featuring a plant that has a very weird common name. It's from Africa, and it is this plant here just to the side. The common name is Jammy Mouth. And a silly name, and I'll bring the flower closer to everyone so that everyone can see it. Let's choose this one. And get it nice and close up to the camera. And that's the flower. If you're an Australian, it looks a little bit like a Stewart's desert pea. But this is a shrub from Africa known as Jammy Mouth, or also hummingbird shrub, and that is what it tends to be called over in the USA, where there are hummingbirds, of course. We don't have those, but our native birds, the honey eaters, are actually going to it because I noticed them at my place. So the name Ruttya, the botanical name is Ruttya fruticosa, not fruticosa, fruticosa, was named in honor of Dr. John Rutty. And the fruticosa component basically just means shrub, a habit of the plant. It's nice and easy. So whenever you see the word fruticosa, like Westringia fruticosa, Cananga fruticosa, it basically just means shrubby. Nice and simple interpretation there. So this particular plant, I like it because it is from a climate zone similar to where I live. I live in the subtropics. And this particular plant is native to the northeast and eastern tropical parts of Africa and also southern Arabian Peninsula. So if you can think about those climates and you can relate your climate to those, then you are in the right conditions to grow this particular plant. And as I said, it is a great little plant with a gorgeous flower. In fact, it's very unique in that it's got a near black, dark red. It's very hard to focus. Let me do this. Dark red lip with a brick red or brick orange petals that stick upwards. Now, this plant is part of the Acanthaceae family, which a lot of ornamental plants we already grow in the gardens. Whether you're into cottage gardens or native plants, there are Acanthaceae groups of plants which will be suitable for your garden. But this one, Ruttya fruticosa, is one of the plants I love to grow because it is incredibly low maintenance in my garden. It's basically a scrambling shrub. Now, what that means is it's about shrub proportions, about 1.5 to 2 meters high, except the branches kind of throw themselves out with most of the foliage on the outer edge where the sunlight is. And that's a really good indication to keep it pruned nice and neat so you get a nice dense foliage. And the secret with pruning is you prune them after flowering so that it gives it chance to put on new foliage for an optimum flower display the following year. Now, right now, mine are in flower. I'm in winter, which means the flowering period for the Ruttya is in the winter into the early summer period. And I do find personally most of mine flower through winter, start into spring, and then stop. So it is worthwhile growing these plants because it provides nectar for the birds who are flying around trying to get food. It's another source for them. And in truth, if we can provide as much food as possible for our wildlife, it means we will get more wildlife in our garden. And I'm all for that. Whether it's native or non-native, the plants, it seems that the animals, the bees, the butterflies, and the nectar drinking birds don't really pick the difference very much. Now, The key things with this particular plant is that it is evergreen, which means it does not drop its leaves. So throughout the year, it is a nice green shrub. As I mentioned, the flowers occur in the winter period. Now, there are apparently 3 colors. This is the red. Beautiful. Absolutely. In my garden, when the light shines on it, it is an absolute stunning specimen. This one is regarded as orange. And there is a yellow one on the market, except I don't have it yet. I have to track it down. It is available overseas. I just yet haven't seen it for sale here in Australia. It probably is. I have yet to source it. So if anyone knows where I can buy it, please tell me. I'd love to add it to my collection. Now, in my garden, I do grow the red one mostly because that was the first one I got my hands on. But the moment I got the orange, I've started to grow more of that because I do like the color. Orange, one of my favorite colors. It's a nice contrast or an addition to the rest of my garden color spectrum. This plant loves full sun. The more sun you give it, the denser it grows, the more flowers you will get. But it will handle part shade. And when it does get that, it reduces the amount of flowers it gets each year. So always remember that full sun is the best results you will get. The other thing is that this is regarded as a shrub, but it is known to do almost like a semi-climbing, scrambling habit. So when it pushes out a new growth, if you think of a bougainvillea, not like that though, but it shoots out a new growth, and if there is a nearby branch within reach, it will hold onto that to support the branch. So my plant is around about 2.5 meters wide because I've let the branches go all the way out and lean over. And I have to admit, it is absolutely beautiful because it makes almost like a dome-like effect. And I do have the space to allow it to do that. But one of the best things to do with this plant is to prune it into a very defined hedge, and you'll find that the inner component of the stem structure becomes a wonderful habitat for small birds. So if you're after nesting areas for birds, this is another really good one for you to consider. It's also good for screening if you want to block out a low screen, block out a view. It's also good for a feature plant if you want a plant with vibrant red or orange or the yellow. These are really good plants to produce those colors in winter. And as I said, the flower is quite unique. You have that upright flower that has that red, dark, almost black red in the center, which is the birds put their bills down there and then drink the nectar that is in there. It is a low maintenance plant. Now, I have to admit, I've never sprayed it for any pests or diseases. I don't really care if there are any. The plant seems to be resilient no matter what hits it from whatever bug, but I haven't noticed any problems. It's low maintenance in terms of water need. At my place, I do not water my plants, this one, at all. I have not watered it since I put it in the ground. That's over 10 years ago. So it does depend upon your rainfall in your area. Pests, diseases, pruning. I prune after flowering just to keep it within shape. Sometimes it does go a little bit over the pathway, and that is when I prune it back. So basically, this ticks all the boxes for low maintenance, low water, low pest diseases, everything. It is a great plant. Remember, Ruttya fruticosa, known as Jammy Mouth or Jammy Mouth is the correct one, and overseas sometimes as hummingbird shrub. Now, some other uses which might be of interest to some people. Now, in its native land, in parts of Africa, the flowers have been pulled off and sucked to extract the nectar from it. Now, as a kid, I used to do that to honeysuckle and to a lot of other plants. Some friends I know used to do it to grevillea. So I suspect this is what the kids have been doing over in Africa. It's just what I saw reported on one of the posts. The twigs are also used to make coal sticks. Now, a coal stick is like an eyeline pencil. I don't know how they used it, but that's how it's reported. And also for wedge-shaped dividers to separate their hair, so probably to hold the hair in a bun or something. But I just grow it as a shrub. That's all I use it for. The plant has also been used as a fodder plant for cattle and for camels and goats over in Africa. And the flowers are an important component for bee foraging. So these are some of the things why I like the Ruttya, because it is used over in Africa for so many reasons. But for me, I just like the shape of the flower. It's something a little bit different. It doesn't look like any of my grevilleas. It doesn't look like any of my other native plants. If you have ever seen a Stewart's Desert pea, it looks a little bit reminiscent of that flower. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I like it. It has that kind of similarity of that darkened bit in the middle. Whereas the Stewart's Desert pea is related to the peas, this is not in the same family. This is in the Acanthaceae family. So I encourage people, if you have the space, if you have the desire to find something and grow something a little bit different, see if you can find the Jammy Mouth plant, the Ruttya fruticosa. You will most likely find the reddish color, but the orange is on the market. And as I said, if you find yellow, please tell me. I wish to acquire that plant myself. I'm sure one day I will find the yellow one. So that's the feature plant for today, and it is going to be a short video today, but I do want to bring up another topic, which is when you're going to shop for a plant. Sometimes we are fixated on the appearance of a particular plant. It's a little bit like when we go shopping for tomatoes or bananas. We don't look for one that's got blemishes. However, the fruit inside is usually perfectly fine. So when you're going shopping for plants, occasionally you might see one like this, bent. There is nothing wrong with a bent plant. It doesn't have to be straight. Nothing needs to be straight. And this one is really good as a garden plant. Now, it has naturally already started to produce a shoot near the base to balance up its own growth. But if it hadn't, I would simply plant it at a slight angle like that, so that the trunk would start a little bit straighter. Then I could use a stake to straighten it a little bit more. But in most cases, if it's a shrub, you do not need to worry too much about the shape at the base of the plant. This is for home gardeners. If it is a tree species, that's a little bit different. Provided there's no curve in the trunk and it's not obvious, those plants, again, if it's straight at the top, you can plant it straight in the ground. If, however, you buy a plant and the pot is completely up and down, but the plant goes diagonal at an angle, that often and can sometimes be the result of, in nursery production, they use upright rods or poles or stirrups to keep the plant up off the ground to improve their drainage. And it is possible during production, one of those support poles or struts might have actually dropped. So the plant pot has slightly bent, but the plant has continued growing perfectly straight. And that's your key secret. So when you plant it, the tree is straight, the plant is straight. Just put the plant in the ground a little bit crooked so that the plant itself is perfectly straight. And I do get a lot of people who ask me the questions, is this plant better than this? And in truth, both should grow normal. The thing I would not do is, if the plant was growing crooked in a pot, do not plant the pot straight if the plant is going to do that. You want the plant to pretty much grow straight, so plant the pot slightly at an angle and you'll get much better success, better growth and things like that. But for a shrub, shrubs like this one, they are multi-stemmed. I could cut it here and it would branch. I could leave it at the top, it will still branch. But this one is already starting to fix itself up. I'm going to leave it alone. There is no need for me to worry about this particular plant. The bend, the curve, do not worry about that. It's like blemishes on a banana. Do not worry too much. If there are small blemishes, What is inside is the quality. So straight plants are not necessary unless you're trying to create a council approved Australian standard tick certification for a planting of a street tree. But most of us, most gardeners are not. And this means that we have more flexibility to buy plants at home. We don't have to go for pristine looking plants. You don't have to get a plant in flower. In fact, getting a plant in flower to take home can sometimes be detrimental. It's much like how we say when you buy a citrus and it has fruit on it, before you plant it, take the fruit off, sacrifice the fruit, because the focus, we want the plants to focus all of their attention on roots, not on flowers, not on fruit, on roots. That is the priority to get your plant established. And once the plant is established, it will get more flowers. It will get more fruit. The same is true for a non-flowering fruiting plant, or I should say non-fruiting plant. We still want the flowers. If you do sacrifice the flowers on that very first year, you will get a better shaped plant. You will get more flowers the following year. So it's up to you whether or not you wish to sacrifice your first year flowers. I tend to cut all of my flowers off any new plant I buy before I put it in the ground. I appreciate it in the pot, but as I put it in the ground, they come off. If there are any flowers that have developed into fruit pods, they must come off because that delays and slows down the entire rooting process, and you don't want that. You want your fresh new plants to root as fast as possible, as healthy as possible, to stimulate new root growth so that you can get more growth and a better flowering season the following year. So I hope that little garden tip about selecting plants, don't worry if it's bent. It's perfectly okay. I hope that has helped you. So once again, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please give it a thumbs up. Tick the bell if you can. That means if we do another one, and when we do another one, you will get a reminder. But please subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated, and it helps us grow this particular YouTube podcast each week. I've got a couple of extra special videos lined up to embed into some upcoming podcasts about plants that we're featuring. And once I sort out the actual studio where I will be working my podcast, I'll be able to get some people in, bring their plants in, and we'll be able to have more discussion with those people about gardening, etc. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, Subtropical Gardening, and I will speak to you all next week.